Alright guys, welcome back. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about how to 3D model this rooftop ventilation fan. So I'm just going to go through the basics. I'm not going to do a step-by-step just because there's a lot of versions of this. So I'm going to give you the tools you need to create your own one of these. So I'm going to go to Fusion 360. I'm going to open up a sketch like so. And I'm going to do the profile and revolve feature. So normally when I would make something like this for a customer or for myself for Diorama, I'd actually go onto the OEM's website and get some dimensions. But in this case, since I'm only doing it as a tutorial, I'm just going to kind of wing it today. So especially as I get through the model, you'll notice that things don't look exactly like that picture. But again, just a really quick change to how the model is set up, and especially the sketch. It will kind of make a little bit more sense on um, how you could apply these principles to designing your own rooftop ventilation fan. So I am still in sketch mode, so I'm kind of going up and down here to set my um, dimension correctly in the y-axis. I'm going to come over here about a ½ millimeter also. And then this is the part of the sketch where I kind of build that little bubble in the middle. And you'll notice here at the end when I get through the video that the bubble is actually a good bit taller than when I made it here in this video. But again, the intent of this is to just kind of show you the overall tools that you can use and the features built in Fusion 360. And I'm actually going to back this off here just a little bit as I kind of come up and make this kind of top part of the ventilation system, the square base, or the circular base, I should say. And as we wrap up the video, I'll kind of show you how to add the square base that's a little bit more noticeable in the original design. So now that I got the overall shape and profile of the rooftop fan, I'm going to come over here just a little bit more before I take a dip down. And then I'm going to just kind of pick a random depth here, like so, just to kind of give it that look of separation there between the outer diameter of the frame. And then I'm going to come over here like so, and then I'm going to go up just a bit above the frame, and then I'm going to come over to the y-axis, and that's kind of why I'm zooming out here so I know where it is for my own reference. And then I'm going to come over here, line that up just like so, and I think it's going to come out to like 90.1 degrees in the vertical, so it definitely wouldn't be noticeable like for a diorama, but it would of course be much more noticeable if we were designing one of these things for a building, and consequences would be much more. So I'm going to come down here to the base, and that's going to close out my sketch, and you can kind of see this by turn light blue. So my next step is to round off some of these corners. So you'll notice for these rooftop units, they'll have a lot of round edges. 1 second here, make that change. I'm going to undo, and then I'm going to reset that radius on that corner. And then I'm going to scroll down just a little bit more. And I'm going to do the same thing at these two pieces here. So at this little guy right here. And I'm just randomly picking values. Like if you were really concerned with how much the radius was too curved or not curved enough, you could go in there and enter your own specific values. I'm going to click Finish Sketch once I make sure I got everything the way that I want it. And then I'm going to go up to the Revolve feature like so. Select my axis, which is kind of like the y-axis. And you can see like the general shape is there of what I want, but this would be, that centerpiece as I mentioned, I probably could have came up a little higher, but it gets us to the point where we want it to be. So I would just really come back into the sketch and have that piece there go up a little bit higher. But again, for the purpose of this tutorial, it's perfectly fine. So the next thing I need to do is to create a couple squares. So this is going to be the base of the ventilation unit. And so I'm going to kind of set this at 1.5 inches, which comes out to basically 1.5 feet. And then I'm going to do an offset, and I'll show you why here in a minute. So I'm going to do an offset of, about there, looks good. And now I'm going to kind of rotate this around so you can see what that sketch looks like. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to extrude this so that it kind of meets up with the ventilation unit, like so. So I'm not going to get too much. Give me just a second here while I set this from cut into a join. So when I was putting this together, I had a little bit of a hard time mousing correctly. So I originally was going to have this extrude solid, but I decided to make it to where only the top portion joined to the fan, like this. And then what I'm going to do here in just a minute is I'm going to extrude down, but I'm only going to do the frame of the stand. And you know, when you were to, if you were to install these on a rooftop building, you know, the bottom of it would be more likely to be a more of a frame kind of a setup than a solid piece of sheet metal. So now that I got that set up, I'm going to click join and click OK. And then I'm going to turn the sketches on so that I can see it. And I'm going to extrude this down like so. And I'm just going to randomly pick a number. As I mentioned earlier, it probably would be a little bit shorter than that, but again, for the purposes of this video, it's perfectly fine to kind of show that. So the next thing I'm going to do is to try and create a little spout coming off of here. So I'm going to extrude this out, and I'm going to overextend it just to kind of show. And you know, I did a circle, but you could do a square. You could do any shape that you wanted to do for this discharge piece here. And I'll come back here in a few minutes and shorten this out a little bit. And in this case, I made mine hollow. If you wanted to, for example, have a different diameter on the inside of that, you could. And then have like a discharge of of resin or something like that, depending on what you wanted your rooftop to look like. So I'm going to do another offset plane here, and I'm going to show you an example of how to do one of these, and then you could put as many of these little mounting devices on here that you wanted. So I'm going to do one. I'm going to set the diameter that I want it, and again I'm going to extend it out a little bit further and then back it off just so you can kind of see how you would go about doing that. So these are really the same tools that I use for today's session is what I used for some of the other things like a lamp that I use the Revolve tool for. But again, the intent is just to kind of show you some of these tools and how you can go from a manufacturer's photo to putting together your sketch and then creating your 3D sketch or your 2D sketch into a 3D model that you would then send to your 3D printer. Paint it up, and then include it with your diorama. So I'm going to extend this out like so. Back that 1M off of there. And then I'm going to rotate this around so you can see how much this sticks out. So I only set it to 2 meters, or 2 millimeters, excuse me. And again, if you're doing a diorama, 2 millimeters doesn't seem like a lot, but if you're just looking for a bolt or a mounting screw, 2 millimeters would stick out fairly far. So I would probably, if I was just looking for a screw, I'd probably set it for a millimeter at the most, and then round those edges off. So as I mentioned, I'm going to come up here and I'm going to back this discharge spout back in. I'm going to click OK, and then I'm going to do the same just to kind of give you a view of what this looks like. So that kind of is the overall tutorial. But the other thing I wanted to mention is, as of next week, I won't have access to this software anymore. So I'm running this on an old laptop. So until I can get a new laptop, I'll be pausing Fusion 360 really designs for myself and for other people. So if you have questions, please put them in the comments. I'd be happy to help. And of course, if you have folks that are getting into dioramas, 3D modeling, and you're looking for a place to start, or they're looking for a place to start, please like and share. Here in the next couple weeks, when I start to get some of my figures in, I will do another video. But for now, I am signing off until I can get some new equipment. That's it. Have a great weekend.